Be me, name is James. 31, junior architect at a growing architectural firm. Been here 4 years, work my way up from intern. Company has about 70 employees, designs commercial buildings and residential projects. Good mix of creative people, engineers, designers, project managers. I love this job. Always dreamed of designing buildings since I was a kid. Used to draw houses in my notebooks during class. Now I actually get paid to bring structures to life. The team is solid. We work hard, but we respect each other. Men and women collaborate without issues. My mentor is actually a woman named Patricia, senior architect. She taught me everything about client presentations and design reviews. Never once felt like gender was an issue here. We just focused on creating great buildings. Everything changes when the firm hires a new head of human resources. Her name is Diane, 39, comes from a large consulting firm in Boston. First week, she schedules individual meetings with every employee. I meet with her on Thursday afternoon. She asks about my experience at the firm. I tell her it's been great. I've learned so much. She asks if I've ever witnessed any gender-based discrimination. I say honestly no, this place has been really supportive. She writes something down and looks at me skeptically. Says sometimes people don't recognize discrimination when they benefit from it. I'm not sure what she means, but I nod politely. Meeting ends, and I feel weird about it. Like I gave the wrong answer somehow. 2 weeks later, Diane announces a new initiative. Sends out a company-wide email with a subject line. Mandatory professional development. Understanding gender dynamics. I open it and read through the details. All male employees are required to attend a 16-hour sensitivity training program, spread across 4 Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Training will cover topics like unconscious bias, male privilege, and allyship. Attendance is mandatory and will be tracked. Failure to attend will result in disciplinary action. I read it again to make sure I understand. Only male employees have to attend. On Saturdays, our day off. 16 hours of training about how we're apparently the problem. I look around the office and catch eyes with my coworker Brian. He's read the email too, looks just as confused as me. After work, a bunch of us grab drinks at the bar across the street. 6 guys from different departments all processing this news. Brian speaks first, so we have to give up 4 Saturdays to learn about how we're unconsciously sexist, even though nobody has complained about anything. David from engineering shakes his head. I've been here 9 years, never had a single HR issue. Now I'm being sent to training like I did something wrong. I mentioned my meeting with Diane. How she seemed disappointed that I hadn't witnessed discrimination. Like she was looking for problems that don't exist. Marcus from project management speaks up. My wife is going to love this, giving up our Saturdays for sensitivity training. We were supposed to be house hunting next month. Everyone's frustrated, but no one knows what to do. If we refuse, we get disciplined. If we complain, we're the guys who have a problem with sensitivity training. Either way, we look bad. Brian suggests we just go through it and see what happens. Maybe it won't be as bad as we think. First Saturday arrives, and we all show up at the conference room. There's about 25 of us, every male employee in the company. Diane is there with an outside facilitator she hired. Woman named Dr. Keisha Robinson has a PhD in gender studies. She starts by having us arrange chairs in a circle. Says this creates equal power dynamics. No hiding behind tables. First exercise, we go around and share a time we benefited from male privilege, without realizing it at the time. I'm sitting there trying to think of something. The guy before me shares a story about getting promoted. Says maybe he only got it because he's a man. Dr. Robinson nods approvingly, says that's excellent awareness. My turn comes, and I'm honest. I say I can't think of a specific time. I've worked hard for everything I've achieved. My mentor here is a woman who helped me grow. Dr. Robinson frowns and says that's a classic deflection. Attributing success to hard work ignores systemic advantages. She asks me to dig deeper. I say I'm not trying to deflect. I just genuinely can't think of an example. She writes something in her notebook. Says we'll revisit this resistance later. Resistance, like I'm being difficult. For not confessing to something I don't think I did. Session continues, with more exercises. We watch videos about microaggressions. Things like telling a woman she's articulate, apparently that's offensive. Asking where someone learned to speak English so well. Commenting on someone's appearance in any context. Some of these make sense, I get it. But some feel like normal human interaction being criminalized. Dr. Robinson explains that intent doesn't matter. Only impact matters. Even if you meant well, you caused harm. You don't get to decide if something was offensive. The person who felt offended decides. I raise my hand and ask a question. So if someone feels offended by something completely innocent, we're automatically guilty of causing harm. Dr. Robinson says yes, that's how systemic oppression works. The privileged don't get to define what's harmful. I want to push back, but I see Diane writing notes. I shut up and just listen for the rest of the session. 4 hours later, we're finally released. I drive home feeling exhausted and frustrated. Not from learning, from being lectured at. For things I haven't done. By people who've already decided I'm guilty. My girlfriend asks how it went. I tell her it was like being on trial for crimes I didn't commit. She says that sounds awful. I say it's only the first session. 3 more to go. She hugs me and says she's sorry. Week 2 of training focuses on allyship. Dr. Robinson explains how men need to actively support women. Not just by not being sexist, but by calling out other men constantly. Interrupting conversations where men dominate. Giving credit to women even when the idea was yours. Stepping back from opportunities so women can advance. One guy asks, what if we're the most qualified for something? Should we still step back? Dr. Robinson says sometimes equity requires sacrifice. True allies put women's advancement above their own. I'm thinking about the promotion I've been working toward. Senior architect position, I've earned it. My work speaks for itself. But now, apparently, I should step aside. Let someone else have it because of their gender. That doesn't feel like equality. That feels like discrimination in reverse. Session ends with homework. We have to journal about times we witnessed other men being sexist and failed to intervene. If we can't think of any, we should reflect on why we're not paying attention. I go home and stare at the blank journal. Can't think of anything because my colleagues are decent people. But if I write that, I'm not paying attention. If I make something up, I'm lying about a coworker. Either way, I lose. Week 3 is the worst one. Dr. Robinson brings in a panel of women to share their experiences. Women from other companies, not ours. They share stories of harassment, discrimination, being overlooked. Some of the stories are genuinely terrible. Sexual comments, unwanted touching, being passed over for promotions. I feel bad for what they went through. No one should experience that. But then Dr. Robinson turns to us. Says these women's experiences are universal. Every woman in your workplace has similar stories. You just haven't created the space for them to share. I think about Patricia, my mentor. Think about the women on my team. We've worked together for years. They've never indicated anything like this. Are they hiding trauma from me? Or is Dr. Robinson assuming all workplaces are the same? After the panel, we do an exercise called the privilege walk. Everyone lines up and Dr. Robinson reads statements. Step forward if you've never been afraid walking alone at night. Step forward if you've never been interrupted in a meeting. Step forward if you've never been called too emotional at work. Step forward if your gender has never been used against you. All the men end up at the front of the room. All the women from the panel at the back. Dr. Robinson says, look at this visual representation of privilege. This is the head start men get in life. Without even knowing it. I look at my position at the front. Think about the student loans I'm still paying. The 60-hour weeks I work. The promotion I've been grinding for. But sure, I had a head start. Because I'm not afraid walking at night. Even though I've been mugged twice. but that doesn't fit the narrative, so I don't mention it. Week 4, final session. Dr. Robinson asks us to share what we've learned. Guys go around saying the expected things. I learned about my unconscious bias. I'll be a better ally now. I understand my privilege more. When it's my turn, I'm tired of pretending. I say I learned that there are real problems in some workplaces, and that harassment is never acceptable. But I also learned that this training assumes guilt before evidence, treats all men as perpetrators and all women as victims, doesn't acknowledge that our specific workplace might be different. Dr. Robinson interrupts me, says that's exactly the kind of defensiveness that perpetuates harm. I say I'm not being defensive, I'm being honest. Diane stands up and says, James, we can discuss this privately later. Translation, I'm in trouble for not playing along. I shut up and the session ends. We all get certificates of completion. Dr. Robinson thanks us for being open to growth. I want to laugh at the irony. Monday morning, I get called into Diane's office. She says she's concerned about my attitude during training. I showed resistance and defensiveness. She's documenting this in my personnel file. I ask what specifically I did wrong. She says I failed to acknowledge my privilege. I question the facilitator's assertions. I didn't complete the journaling homework with sufficient reflection. I tell her I was honest. I thought that was the point. She says honesty that denies systemic issues is just ignorance. She recommends I do additional reading on my own time. Hands me a list of 10 books about feminism and male privilege. Says she'll follow up next month to discuss what I learned. I take the list and leave feeling defeated. This is punishment for not confessing to sins I didn't commit. Weeks go by, and the effects of the training become clear. Men in the office are walking on eggshells, afraid to say anything that might be perceived as offensive. Conversations become stilted and professional only. The easy collaboration we used to have is gone. Brian tells me he doesn't give feedback to female colleagues anymore. Too risky, might be seen as mansplaining, even when they directly ask for his input. David from engineering stops mentoring the junior woman on his team. Says he can't risk being alone with her, might be misconstrued. She's confused because she valued his guidance. Now she's basically on her own. The women in the office notice something is wrong. Patricia asks me why the men have been so distant lately. I tell her about the training, the constant message that we're the problem. Now everyone's afraid of being accused of something. She looks frustrated. Says she never asked for this. Never wanted men to be scared of her. She just wanted colleagues who respected her work, which she already had. Projects start suffering because communication breaks down. Design reviews that used to be collaborative become awkward. Men giving minimal feedback. Women confused by the sudden change. A big client presentation goes poorly because the male architects didn't speak up about design concerns. They were worried about dominating the conversation. Client asks why our team seems so disengaged. We lose the project to a competitor. Diane calls another meeting about the importance of engagement. Says she's noticed productivity dropping. Asks if anyone has insights about why. No man speaks up. We've learned that speaking up gets us documented. Finally, Marcus from project management says something. Maybe the sensitivity training made people afraid to communicate. Diane frowns and says that's not the intended outcome. Marcus says intent doesn't matter, only impact. That's what we learned in training. The impact is that men are afraid to collaborate normally. Diane looks uncomfortable, says she'll review the situation. Things continue to deteriorate. 2 male architects quit, say the environment has become hostile. They're the ones being treated as guilty just for existing. Junior employees stop asking questions, afraid of saying the wrong thing. Patricia goes to the managing partners about what's happening. She tells them the sensitivity training has backfired. Men are now so worried about being accused that they've stopped engaging entirely. It's hurting everyone, including the women. Managing partners call a review meeting. They pull the training feedback forms. Turns out 90% of the men rated it poorly. Comments about feeling accused without evidence. About the assumption of guilt. About being unable to give honest feedback. They also pull productivity metrics. Down 23% since the training started. Client satisfaction scores down. 2 resignations directly citing workplace environment. Managing partners call Diane in. I'm not in the meeting, but I hear about it later. They asked her to justify the training. She defended it as industry best practice. They asked why it only targeted men. She said men are the source of gender-based issues. They pointed out the company had 0 harassment complaints before she arrived. Now they have 5 complaints from men about hostile environment. Managing partners put Diane on administrative leave, pending review of all her policy implementations. Word spreads through the office fast. Nobody celebrates out loud, but there's relief. 2 weeks later, Diane is officially terminated. Managing partners send out a company-wide email. Acknowledge that the recent HR initiatives were misguided. Created division instead of inclusion. Treated employees as guilty without cause. They're bringing in a new HR director. Focus will be on supporting all employees equally, not targeting any group based on gender. New HR director starts a month later. His name is Frank, 50s, been in HR for 25 years. First thing he does is meet with every department. Asks what's working, what's not, what people need. Actually listens instead of assuming. He reviews the sensitivity training materials. Shakes his head and calls it counterproductive. Says real inclusion means treating everyone as individuals, not dividing people into oppressor and victim categories. He implements new policies. Harassment training that applies to everyone equally. Focus on specific behaviors, not group identities. Resources for anyone who experiences issues. Clear processes that assume good intent until proven otherwise. Within a month, the atmosphere starts changing. Men start collaborating normally again. Women aren't walking on eggshells around anxious male colleagues. Patricia and I are back to our regular mentoring sessions, working on a new civic center project together. The easy teamwork we used to have returns. 6 months later, productivity is back up. Actually higher than before Diane arrived. Client satisfaction scores improved. No more resignations citing workplace environment. The firm feels like a team again. I finally get my promotion to senior architect. Based on my work, my skills, my contributions. Not my gender either for or against. That's how it should be. Patricia congratulates me. Says I earned it through talent and dedication. Not because of any systemic advantage. Just good old-fashioned hard work. I thank her for everything she taught me. The irony isn't lost on either of us. A woman mentored me to success, while a female HR director tried to hold me back. Gender was never the issue. Individuals were the issue. Good ones help you grow. Bad ones create problems where none existed. Year later, I'm mentoring my own junior architect. Young woman named Rebecca, fresh out of school. Talented, eager to learn. Reminds me of myself. I share everything I know, just like Patricia did for me. No hesitation, no fear of being accused. Because Frank created an environment of trust, where helping colleagues is encouraged, not suspicious. Rebecca asks about the sensitivity training days. She heard stories but wasn't here for it. I tell her we went through a rough period, where assumptions replaced actual problems. Where people were treated as groups, not individuals. She asks how it got fixed. I tell her leadership eventually saw the damage. Realized that good intentions don't excuse bad outcomes. That treating any group as inherently problematic creates the very division you claim to be fixing. She nods and says her school had similar issues. Lots of talk about privilege and oppression. But when she got here, everyone just treated her like a colleague. That's been more empowering than any lecture. I smile and say that's how it should be. Judge people by their character and contributions, not by categories they were born into. That's actual equality, not the performative kind that creates new inequalities. Anyway, that's the story of how our HR director required men to attend sensitivity training, 16 hours of being told we're the problem, without any evidence we'd done anything wrong. The result was men becoming afraid to collaborate, women losing mentorship and engagement, productivity crashing, and clients leaving, until leadership finally saw the damage and fixed the actual problem, which was the person creating problems where none existed. Turns out if you treat employees like criminals, they stop acting like colleagues. And if you want inclusion, you can't get there by exclusion. Real sensitivity means treating people as individuals, not as representatives of their gender.